Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's session, we are going to talk about lifting of corporate veil in company law. This is in continuation with our CMA Inter company law paper, right? Let's get started with today's video. The lifting of corporate veil is actually a continuation of the business entity concept which we studied in accountancy. If you want to know more about this, please go visit my previous video. I have detailedly explained about the concept of business entity. That concept is very simple. That is, the company and the owner are two different people. Company is treated as a separate entity. That is the concept of business entity, right? In this lifting of corporate veil, it means the company is treated as a separate person. That is correct. During certain situations, the law and order people will actually lift the corporate veil and find out who is actually behind that, either the management or any key person who is behind that activity. That is called as lifting of corporate veil. Say, for example, there is a problem in the organization and there is a fraudulent activity which is done by the manager. Right, here we cannot simply say that the company is responsible for it because it is a separate legal entity. Because a company is an artificial person. It is not in existence. Like it's not a person. Right, it does not have any life in it. Right, it is a separate entity but run by certain managers and other key persons. Right, so when in such cases, when the fraudulent activity is found out by the people, what the law will do is it will lift the corporate veil. It will lift that business entity concept and treat the company and the person who is responsible for such fraudulent activities as the same. Here they will lift that corporate veil. No more it will be treated as a separate legal entity. That person who's behind it will be punished. They'll be imprisoned or they'll be given a fine, right? So that concept is called as a lifting of corporate veil. Here, if you can see, this is actually a textbook reference from the CMA material inter syllabus. So I have taken a screenshot of it and I'm going to teach with this from this ongoing class, right? So a separate personality of a company is a statutory privilege. That is, a company will have a separate statutory privilege and it should be used for a legitimate business, that is for a legally accepted business. Only for that purpose only we should be using it as a separate legal entity. Where a fraudulent and dishonest use is made of the legal entity, that means I'm using the name of the company and I am doing any fraudulent activity. In such cases, the individuals concerned will not be allowed to take a shelter behind the corporate personality. That is, no more they'll be doing it under the veil of the corporate. The veil shall be lifted by the law, right? That is the meaning of lifting of corporate veil. The court will break through the corporate shell and apply the principle/doctrine of what is called as lifting of or piercing the corporate veil. I am no more seeing you both as a separate legal people. Rather, I am looking into the person who is actually making the fraudulent activity, right? For continuation, the court will look behind the corporate entity and take action through no entity separates from the members existed and make the members or controlling people liable for the debts that has been obligated by the company. That is, if I have conducted any fraudulent activity and now I owe certain amount to the other outsiders, it shall not be put into the company, rather it will be put into the person who has committed that fraud. Okay, so that is the meaning of lifting of corporate veil. In the following circumstances, different courts found it necessary to lift the corporate veil and punish the actual people who did wrong or unlawful acts under the name of the company. So now we are going to see certain list of situations where the court will actually lift the corporate veil. The first one is protection of revenue. That is, it may ignore the separate legal entity concept where it is used for tax evasion and circumventing tax obligation. That is, I'm trying to reduce or I'm trying to manipulate the tax obligations that I have. During that time, the court may lift the corporate veil, right? The second one is determination of enemy character of the company. That is, company being an artificial person cannot be an enemy or friend because it does not have any life. It's not like a human being. It's just an artificial person, right? But during war, it may become necessary to lift the corporate veil to see the people behind it to determine whether they are friends or enemy. For example, if my company is in a country A, right? My company is in country A, and my other fellow members, the people who are handling my business, is from country B. Now, what happens? There is a war between A and B. Okay, country A and country B, there is a war. Now, can I trust my managers? No, because my company is situated in country A, and the people who are managing is situated in B. So I cannot have this concept because they are treated as my enemy. Though my company is situated in country A, still the people who are managing it lies on the enemy country. So I cannot do this. So here there is a case, very famous case, that is Daimler Co versus Continental Tires. Okay, it's a very interesting case. If you can, please do find it in Google. It's very interesting. The third one is prevention of fraud, where a company is used for committing frauds or improper conduct. I've just created the company for a namesake to do all those fraudulent activities. In such cases, the corporate veil shall be lifted. The fourth one is in protection of the public policy. The court shall lift the corporate veil without any hesitation to protect the public policy and to prevent transaction opposed to public policy. Just to prevent any public or any public policy, they will lift the corporate veil. The next one is company mere sham or cloak. It means it is not a real company at all. I'm not having any transaction. Just to fool someone, if I'm going to create a company which is for a namesake, it is not actually in existence. I'm just showing that I have created. Okay, that was really a ploy used for committing illegalities and to defraud people. In such cases, again, the corporate veil shall be lifted. The next one is where a company acts as an agent of its shareholders. If there is an arrangement between the shareholders of the company and the company to the effect that the company will act as an agent of the shareholders for the purpose of carrying on the business. The business is essentially of that of the shareholders and will have unlimited liability. For example, I have a one person company. Okay, the entire thing that is happening inside the company will rely upon my activity, right? I may have certain managers, but still, who is the deciding authority? The CEO, that is me, because I have invested in that company. So in that case, I have something called as a agent relationship with my company. Though I have registered my company as a separate legal entity here, still for the activities of the company, I am held responsible. During those cases, the corporate veil shall be lifted. Avoidance of welfare legislations. Where a company tries to avoid its legal obligations, the corporate veil shall be lifted. So, what is it? When I'm trying to actually avoid any of the legal precautions or legal obligations, at that moment, the corporate veil shall be lifted. And lastly, we have to punish for contempt of court. That is, company being an artificial person cannot disobey the orders of the court. Therefore, the person at fault should be identified and they have to be corrected. They have to be given a fine or imprisonment. Right? So these are the following cases where these are the cases where the corporate veil shall be lifted. Thank you so much. Subscribe for more videos.